Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm very open with you folks. I tell you what's going on in my life, and I've been putting off making this video for a while since my last video. If you know, my mom, she was in hospice because she wasn't going to recover from her stroke. Because when I took her originally to the hospital, having mini strokes, that was her second stroke, was at my house. And then after she was in the hospital, maybe for a week and a half, she ended up having a third stroke. And the third stroke was the one that affected both sides of her brain, where for about a week, she was non-responsive. And then one time I did visit her, she knew I was there. I could just see it in her eyes. And I videotaped that from just for me, to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Like, yeah, she was looking at me. She knew I was there. She even tried to speak to me. And that was the last time, basically. And then, yeah, she couldn't move, she couldn't talk, she couldn't do anything. She just pretty much just was like in a sleeping state. It's not a coma, not a vegetative state, just, I don't know, it's just hard to explain. But anyway, she was not going to recover. She was not herself. Basically, she was a shell of her former self. And if I just kept the feeding tube in her and just put her in long-term care, she would be just existing. And my mother always made it clear, like, hey, if I'm not going to be living, don't put me on life support. Don't put me on anything that's going to keep me alive if I'm not living. She instilled that into our head for years, because she always thought she was going to die like at 50, So she instilled it for like 20 years just in our brains. And so we knew what we had to do. And my brothers and I, we get along great, where, we can agree. There's nobody fighting anybody. And when I went to visit her in hospice, the entire time she was from the hospital to hospice, I visit her every single day. Even if, I think sometimes when she was in hospice for I only could handle 5 minutes. I couldn't, But some days I felt at peace and I could stay longer. I always held her hands, always sang. Well, I didn't sing to her. I played her favorite church songs on YouTube. My brothers, I held up the phones to them. Her brothers, everybody who wanted to say goodbye to her, like, I was the one holding the phone to the ears. And sometimes I would just cry. Like, it's my mother. And if you've seen like TV shows, yeah, I was one of the threw myself over her and begging her to come back to me, like begging her, like sobbing. So when she first arrived at hospice, when I came in, she would open her eyes. She knew I was there, but then she would immediately just doze off. Then eventually she wasn't opening her eyes anymore. But I would kiss her, I would hug her, hold her hands, tell her stories. And then on May 12th, 11:43 a.m., she passed away. No pain, She didn't have pain. She didn't feel pain. They made sure she was really comfortable. They kept her clean. They brushed her hair, so she looked good. She looked good. I always complimented her, like, wow, mama, you look so good, because the hospital, she was looking a little wild for a time there, right? But the hospice was incredible. They took care of her. They would always call me, let me know if they were like giving her medicine. They would let me know if she was in pain or wasn't in pain. And she pretty much slept, But, I always dreaded that call, like at night. For some reason, I always associate night, midnight, things happen, right? Bad things happen. But it was a call, at 12 o'clock, and I missed the call because I went out to get my daughter food. And when I came back, lucky I checked my phone, because sometimes I don't check my phone. And I checked it, and I was like, oh, okay, I know it's a hospice calling. And God, when he told me, I literally felt my heart breaking. Like, I was having pains. Like, I was screaming. Poor guy on the phone. I was screaming into his ears. I tried not to, but I think. And I was downstairs by myself in the kitchen, and my family came running down for me. They knew, they could tell. And my husband was like, God, I never want to see you cry like that ever again, because I don't think I've ever cried like that. It was just a painful cry. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go. We're going to go right now. I mean, who wants to go? And my husband's like, well, you can't drive yourself, so I'm going to drive you. But Chrislyn, my oldest 15-year-old, she was the one who went with me to go see my mom's, body and say our last goodbyes. But I made sure, I said, are you ready to see your first dead body? Because this is the first time they've known somebody to die that they were super close to. I mean, she's sad just like me. She's cried a lot. She went in with me, and I just remember falling onto my mom's chest, hugging her, and saying, mommy, mommy, Yeah, I don't usually call her mommy, but when she was in the hospital, it's just like that little girl comes out like, mama, mommy, don't leave me, right? And I saw Chrislyn was crying. And I said, do you want to touch her? She's like, no, I'm not going to touch her. I'm like, okay. And I have this thing with dead bodies. I'm scared of dead bodies. I'm just scared of death and bodies and whatnot, right? But with my mother, of course, it's your mom, right? You love her so much. Yeah, I was like all over her body, like touching her and kissing her, and her cheek was starting to feel cold, but her hands were warm. I told her goodbye. That day, my brothers and I did tell her, it's okay, Mom. It's okay if you want to go. You want to go to be, go and be with Jesus. Go and be with your mother who you miss so much, and your papa and your brothers and your sisters, everybody who went before you that you loved so much, But my mom knew she was dying for some odd reason. I don't know. She just knew, because she told me that, she goes, I'm serious. I came here because I'm dying. I didn't believe her. I blew her off. Like, no, you're not dying. What are you talking about, right? I only had her for a month. Yeah, and a couple weeks after that, all this, it just happened so fast. Because when she was in the hospital, she was getting better, and we were thinking, oh yeah, soon we can bring her home. And then, it happened. Yeah. I don't know. This is something you don't really get over, right? But so, yeah. But I just want to let you know, my sweet, beautiful mom, who I loved more than anything, passed away. So, yeah. I mean, I cry every single day. I do. I miss her so much. I'm like, because when she left Hawaii, she said, I'm getting worse. I need to come up as soon as possible, because she wanted to. She knew. And she wanted to spend her last moments with me and my girls and my husband. And she kept, even when she was in the hospital, how's Chad? How's the girls? Like, she was worried about everybody else. And I'm like, Mama, you're the one who's sick. We're worried about you. Don't worry about us. We're fine. But that was her. That's her personality. She worried about everybody. Everybody. But yeah. But just keep my family in your prayer, because we're going to need it. But until next time.